Hello, everybody. Raven Knight here. First of all, bear with me, guys. I'm coming down with something, so my voice is going to sound a little bit off. But with that out of the way, let's talk about Virtuosa. So, Virtuosa has been out for a little less than a season now, but all of us have kind of formulated our opinions on her, right? And I think that I've heard every kind of opinion I possibly can about Virtuosa. I think that she is probably the most divisive hero in the cast right now, maybe the most divisive that's ever been released, because I have heard people say that she is one of the best characters ever released, the absolute goated, most wonderful For Honor character ever added, with the most unique personality, the coolest design, the best weapon, and some of the most unique kinds of movesets you've ever seen. But then I've also heard people say she's the most broken mess of a hero to ever come out, impossible to play against, annoying to play as, and if I ever see more than one of them on the enemy team, I'm just quitting because I know it's going to be very, very hell to go against. Now, I want to give my perspective on things. Before I do, though, I want to set two things straight. I want to set these two things clear at the offset. The first is, I'm well aware that I am a casual among casual players. I am not one of the best, and my opinions on balancing and mechanics are based on that perspective. I'm not an expert game designer or developer. I don't know all the things that would make a character great or bad. All I can do is offer my opinion as a casual player, okay? Number two, I do like Virtuosa. I think she is a neat character. I think that her design is cool, her personality is cool, her weapon, while it wasn't what I really wanted, is used effectively, and the moveset and style is pretty good. I think she is a breath of fresh air for Honor, so I'm glad they added her. With that all being said, though, I do think that Virtuosa has a few problems. Much like when grilling a steak, there's a balance you have to meet between underdone and overdone, and I think it's a little overdone, and I would say there are two problems that need to be fixed with Virtuosa. And I think if you fix these two problems, she'll be a great character, and I think a lot of the hate will die down for her. So what I want to do today is share with you my perspective on Virtuosa, talk about the two problems that I have with her, and even provide my ideas on how to fix them. I'm not just going to sit here and complain, I'm going to offer ideas on how to fix them. So follow with me now as we go into the two problems I have with Virtuosa. Number one, the first problem, and it's probably the biggest problem, her posture needs some addressing. Now, I'm not against the pose mechanic. I'm not against her stance mechanic. In fact, I think it's a clever idea. It acts like an all guard, but with some unique elements. I think that's neat. The problem with it is that I think it's unhealthy, especially in fours, and let me explain my rationale. The all-guard mechanic itself is an ability that provides a trade, right? In exchange for an omnidirectional defense from basic attacks, as well as an omnidirectional defense from basic attack. In exchange for an omnidirectional defense from basic attacks, as well as access to new modes of attack, you sacrifice some mobility and make yourself more vulnerable in other ways, such as vulnerability to guard breaks, bashes, or unblockables, which in normal circumstances you could counter through dodging or parrying. Black Prior is the only character thus far who is an exception to this rule, given his bulwark counter, but even the bulwark counter requires proper timing and a button input to activate, so it wasn't just something that happened naturally. You had to have some skill and practice with the character to make it work for you. Virtuosa's stance, meanwhile, goes a few steps further. I mean, think about it. She doesn't even need to pull back on her directional stance like everyone else does. She can just whiff an attack and go into it naturally. But leaving that aside, Virtuosa's stance ability not only evades all enemy attacks, but she also evades bashes and unblockables. All attacks that normally would be the bane of an all-guard. So while she does give up mobility, this isn't an issue because she doesn't need to dodge anything. You can think of her posture as a dodging in place function, meaning she's in perpetual dodge mode even though she's not moving. That's why her only counters are guard breaks and undodgeable attacks. Further, she can't regain stamina in her posture. Now, you would think all of that's a pretty fair trade, right? She can't move, she doesn't regain stamina, and guard breaks and undodgeable attacks are her weaknesses, right? Perfect. But hear me out. I don't think it is a very good trade. I don't think it is a fair trade, okay? Hear me out. The meta of the game, at least from my understanding, has always been about reading. The game has tried very hard to move away from reaction-based gameplay, where it's nothing but staring contests and waiting to react to an enemy's moves, because the developers wanted us to be involved in the combat. They want us to be engaged with each other, constantly giving and receiving, making the fights last longer with more engagement with one another. But Virtuosa literally doesn't have to engage. She is literally rewarded for doing nothing. All she needs to do is enter her posture, and now you feel the pressure. There is no sacrifice she has to bear that she can't make up for. No stamina regeneration? That's fine. She can dodge out of the stance or cancel it at any time. Vulnerability to undodgeables? Not a problem. She can crush and counter while in the right stance. Guard break vulnerability? Not if she starts throwing lights on reaction to the guard break animation. You can't even try to apply pressure with a bash attack as she dodges this too. Now, there are a few arguments to be made, of course, the big one being that the best way to counter Virtuosa is to just play patiently and block her. Inevitably, she will make a mistake and you can punish her for it. And I would actually agree with this for the most part. But the problem is, this advice only really applies when you're fighting a Virtuosa one-on-one. See, in a one-on-one scenario, Virtuosa wants to punish players who are too aggressive, too attack happy, and then she'll punish them for doing so. You need to play that in reverse. You need to be patient and let her make the mistakes. And in a one-on-one scenario where it's just you and her, this can be done. But get a Virtuosa with a friend or an ally in a 4v4 mode, and suddenly Virtuosa becomes a nightmare. Now, yes, I know what you're going to say. Any all-guard character teamed up with another character is a heavy pressure scenario, but that's why all guards have weaknesses, like unblockables and bashes. For example, consider this scenario. You're in a ganking scenario, right? You are 1-on-2 against a Warlord and a Warden. Warlord is an all-guard character. If Warlord just sits in his all-guard to provide passive pressure, you can still relieve this pressure through certain options and through certain characters. Say, throwing a zone from a Raider, a fully charged Hito or Shugoki Heavy, a Conquer Lawbringer Bash, or even an all-guard character of your own who can usually help you maintain some degree of counterplay. As you can see, though it is a frustrating and difficult scenario and you have to be smart about it, you have plenty of options and characters capable of dealing with the scenario. But Virtuosa? None of those previous suggestions will work. In this scenario, you don't have those options. An unblockable from Raider will not work. An unblockable from Hitakiri or Shugoki will not work, even if you have hyper armor applied to it. A bash will not affect her. None of what you would normally do to help you in this situation will affect Virtuosa, and in the end, she can punish you just for trying it. In fact, when you're in a situation where a Virtuosa is teamed up with someone else against you, you only really have 3 options at your disposal. Option 1, run away from the fight entirely. Now, the problem with this idea is it goes against the meta presented in engaging with a fight. Remember, we talked about that. If For Honor wants us to engage in fights and engage with other players, it kind of goes against this to run from every fight. Plus, literally disengaging just so you don't lose means you sacrifice a zone, giving more points to the enemy, and it doesn't even guarantee that you'll survive anyway because they could easily chase you down, and now that every character has a roll catcher, there's very little you can do to survive this scenario. So it all assumes they'll let you run away, and even if they do, you've had to sacrifice a zone just so that you survive. Not an ideal scenario. Your second option. Play characters with undodgeables like Zhanhu or Nobushi. I have heard people make this argument. Look, if you want to beat Virtuosa, just play these undodgeable characters. Right, but the problem with this is that some players may not have access to those characters or may not prefer their playstyle. I mean, this is supposed to be a game where all heroes have some form of viability. All heroes can compete with each other. Telling us to just play a certain hero to win walks away from that philosophy. It is never a good idea in a fighting game with multiple kinds of fighters to just say, look, you want to win, play this one character. That's the easy win character. And unfortunately, that's what it sounds like this argument is. And the third proposition, the third way to survive. Just wait and play defensive until help arrives. This plan only works under 2 assumptions. One, that help will or is coming at all, because you may not be incommunicado with your team, especially if you're playing solo. and two, that you can make the correct plays against not only Virtuosa, but also whoever else she brings with her. And if she has a player that has powerful openers or pinning moves, like say Gladiator or Zhang Jun or any of these characters, you might not have the ability to defend properly, especially against a big problem with Dominion now is a lot of confirmed ganking situations. If you're in a confirmed gank with a Virtuosa and any other character that's good at that kind of play, this idea will not work for you. As you can see, there are very few scenarios that will truly work for you 100% of the time against a Virtuosa and another character. Now, I know this is the same with a lot of all-guard characters, and I do agree, but the difference is, like I said before, in those other all-guard character situations, you do have some options that can help you survive a little longer. Against a Virtuoso, where many of those options are removed from you, I don't think it's as healthy. Now, let's move on to the next argument I've heard. There's another classic suggestion I've heard from people, and it's a good one, and it goes something like this. Just light parry, lol. You know, just light parry, lol. Get good, brah. Well, as enriching and invigorating and truly enlightening as that piece of advice is, I hate to be the one to reveal this, but not everyone has the reaction speed or reading capability to do this consistently, myself included. Sometimes I can literally tell a light is going to come and yet can't react in time to it. Other times it's a matter of hardware, because I play on a PlayStation 5 with an old TV screen as my monitor. I don't have a high-spec PC. I don't have a top-of-the-line gaming monitor. Now, I'm not saying you need these things to light parry, not at all, but they do make it easier, and there are lots of players like me who are very casual, do not have the money to sink into buying that kind of stuff, and just do not have the skill set required to read and react to every parry. I wish I did. I wish I did truly. If I could, I would get myself a state-of-the-art PC, a kick-ass PC monitor that I could play on and read those lights coming and do so much better. I'm sure it would make a world of difference, but I don't. And the idea that your whole explanation to how to beat Virtuosa is not be poor or just improve your reaction time, I don't know, that feels a little bit weird. Much like Rock Lee has had to become a splendid ninja without jutsu, I had to learn to be a mid-tier player without light parry consistency. I mean, we are both going to be exceptional in some cases, but in others we're outclassed, relegated to the sidelines, and completely shat on in the sequel. I'm sorry, I got off topic, didn't I? Now, look, here's the thing. I know I've sounded like a real complainer. I know I'm sounding like I'm whining. I get that. And there are some of you out there who probably are just shaking your head going, Raven, no one cares. Your opinion doesn't matter in this. Stop whining. Here's the thing. I'm not going to just be a complainer. Like I said, I'm going to offer some suggestions on how to fix this problem. I actually have 3 suggestions. Ready? Number 1. Have her stance drain stamina after 1000 MS or something, or have it in naturally after a set amount of time. Look, while I think it is helpful that her stamina regen pauses while in stance, the fact that she can so easily cancel the stance or dodge out of it briefly and then reactivate it again on a whiff or her first feat makes this trade-off much less punishing. Most all-guard stances do regen stamina naturally, but at the same time, they also have more vulnerabilities like unblockables and bashes to contend with. I would say treat the stance differently. After a certain period of inaction, start draining stamina gradually. Maybe not at a fast rate, but at a rate to make the Virtuosa get a fire under their ass to actually do something instead of just sit there the whole time. Because the way I see it, this stance is so strong, you need to make them act. Encourage the Virtuosa not to sit there doing nothing, but actually engage so that players can respond to it. If all she does is sit there and apply passive pressure in a stance that you cannot apply pressure back to, then it's not very fun for the other character or very likely that the character is going to be able to respond to it. I would say make it so that have her stance drain stamina after a certain period of time, or have it in naturally after a set amount of time. Second idea, and again, you don't have to do all these, maybe just 1 or 2, or maybe just, one of them, I would say. But this one, allow her to have bash vulnerability. I honestly don't think this is too much to ask, especially when you consider that there are some bashes that it makes no sense for her to auto-dodge since she doesn't move her legs but just swerves her upper torso, like Warden's Shoulder Bash, Konk's Shield Bash, Black Prior Zone, JJ's Leg Kick, and others. In fact, JJ's leg kick makes the least amount of sense for her to dodge. Look at the way she swerves when her dodge. She just moves her upper body. She doesn't move her legs, and JJ's bash is a strike to the legs. How do you dodge that as Virtuosa? But she does. Now, considering she can seamlessly dodge out of the stance, she can easily respond to most bash characters if she reads them correctly. And if she doesn't, then she should accept the punishment like anyone else. Because think about this. I have watched a Virtuosa in stance. I'm about to bash them because I'm not thinking about the stance, and they dodge on reflex and get out of the way. If she can dodge on reflex, then maybe you should make it so that if she doesn't dodge, she eats that bash. This will make her much less excruciating in ganks, as well as since you can bash her out of her stance and apply follow-up pressure to her comrades. So that way you have another option in the case of fighting a ganking Virtuosa. I think that's not too much to ask. You can make her still dodge unblockables, make her dodge regular attacks, but maybe bashes, or maybe certain bashes, should get her. And then my third idea. Remove the auto dodge function and make it a button response. I think you could maybe treat her dodge ability like a Black Prior Bulwark stance. Make it so that Virtuosa can enter her stance, but if she wants to dodge you, she has to engage by pressing a button, or maybe even shifting the stance widget a certain way to allow her to sway and swerve out of the way of an attack. This will force a player to actually act instead of sitting and reaping rewards for doing literally nothing but letting the character win for you. And again, these are just 3 ideas that I had that I think might make Virtuosa a little bit more tolerable in 4v4 scenarios. Because right now, if I'm up against a 1v1 Virtuosa, it's annoying, but I can deal with it. If it's a Virtuosa who's brought a buddy with them, usually I put down the controller and go, do what you're going to do. I know you're going to destroy me. I don't think these 3 ideas are too much to ask. But again, I know I'm casual. If you guys think differently, or if the developers think differently, you're free to let me know. Just be respectful about it, okay? Now, let's move away from that because that was just the first issue with Virtuosa. Let's talk about the second one. And this one isn't as big of a deal as the stance one, but I do still think it's an issue. Brace yourself, here we go. I don't think her dodge attacks should be omnidirectional. Now, hear me out. While I understand the reason this was added, I get it. I feel it's more than necessary. The developers gave Virtuosa omnidirectional dodge attack so that she could dodge and flow into her stance based on the direction of her attack. I get that, and it makes sense. But here's the problem. Consider this for a moment. Consider this from the other player's perspective. A solid strategy for dealing with defensive playstyles is to bait a dodge attack. If a player is too hasty and falls for this bait, then the obvious response should be a punish. But with Virtuosa, if I successfully bait her, now I'm suddenly forced to gamble on which direction her attack will come from. And this is further exacerbated by the fact that she can delay her dodge attack for an excruciating amount of time, meaning certain early dodge punishes like Scent's Max Punish and Shugoki's Max Heavy sometimes don't land, and you still end up eating the dodge attack you intended to bait. Consider also that the only other character with a multi-directional dodge attack, unless I'm forgetting someone, is Zhan-Hu, but even he is limited to right or left. My suggestion simply would be to limit her to right or left, or if you want to keep the omnidirectional, if you must keep an omnidirectional dodge attack, make it so that she can't enter her stance through it. Make it so that she does it, but she goes right back into her neutral stance. Because I don't think it's very fair, and this is just me, to bait the dodge attack, fail to guess the direction, or mistime the delay, and then she's already back in her own stance applying more pressure. You succeeded in baiting your opponent. You shouldn't be given a second test. That's kind of like saying that you're going to take the SATs to get into college and you pass the SAT only to find out that the college had a second test waiting for you to get in. So it doesn't matter if you pass that first SAT, you got to go through another test to get in. To me, I think that's a little unfair. Now, again, I got to preface this. I'm not saying Virtuosa is a bad character. I'm also not saying she should be deleted, as some people do. I like her. Design-wise, moveset-wise, personality-wise, I think she's a stroke of genius. But I think they overcooked her a little bit. Not to the point that she's super OP and bad and I hate her. More to the point of, I think she's a little difficult to deal with in 4s, and she doesn't need to be. I think they gave her a little too much. And I think with some minor tweaking, she can be fixed. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Raven, didn't our Lord and Savior JC said that Virtuosa right now has a solid win-loss rate of 50% right now? If she has problems, why is she in that nice of a spot? I can't say for certain, but I have theories. 2 theories. First is that Virtuosa's pressure is not nearly as frustrating in 1v1s. So in 1v1s, she's winning and losing at a pretty moderate pace. So I think in the dueling scenario, she's doing okay. In the 4v4s, I think it's very different, but that leads to my second reason. Consider the process of her emergence. And follow me on this one, guys, because you may have noticed it too. Upon her release, she's almost all anyone wanted to play. I remember for the first few weeks of her release, people only played Virtuosa. She was all you saw in any match. So, if everyone in every match is a Virtuosa, obviously the win-loss rate is going to be 50-50 because a team of Virtuosas won and a team of Virtuosas lost. This remained the norm up until about halfway through her release. And then suddenly, did you notice it, guys? Total drop-off. People just stopped playing her. I saw her less and less and less in matches. And if people are playing her less and less and less, then the stats aren't liable to change all that much over time. Now, again, that's just my theory, and I don't think you can perfectly judge a character's stats accurately just from their initial launch period anyway. JC himself admitted they would be keeping an eye on her because they've heard the audience's feedback, and they know some people have some problems with her. The problem is, based on the stats she has, it's hard to know what problems there are. And I get that, but I don't think you should ever trust stats that have only been given for half of a season. I think you need more time to read them and understand them, which is why I get why she hasn't had a lot of fixes yet. But I do believe some fixes will be necessary in her future, otherwise she's going to stay very divisive. And finally, guys, before I end this, I want to say this. As I started at the beginning, I am painfully aware of this serious truth. I am a casual's casual. I am so trash I live next door to Oscar on Sesame Street. I'm so cringe I make a waste of space look like an attractive alternative. I am so shit at this game just picking up the controller to play it feels indecent sometimes. I'm so overwhelmingly bad at this game, I've been told frequently not to make videos like these because everyone knows the only thing worse than my gameplay is my opinions on how to improve the game. But the reason I make this video is the same reason I still play the game. Because I'm free to do so. I am a casual player, and the worst thing For Honor could do is ignore its casual community. Now, they're free to ignore my suggestions. The devs don't have to listen to me. Because they could say your suggestions are bad, or they sound okay, but we have bigger and better plans. And you know what? I'm totally okay with that. That's totally fine. But I always hate it when I get people who hear my suggestions and just say, it's a good thing you're not on the development team, man. I'm not saying I want to be on the development team. And I'm not even saying that my ideas are the best ideas or options out there. My point, though, is the worst thing the development team can do is ignore their casual players. Because the casual players are the majority of this game. There are a lot of people who play this game just like me, maybe not as bad as me, but play casual like I do, and they too have voiced their issues with Virtuosa. And if there are this many people voicing their issues, it can't all just be a matter of get good scrub. Something has to change, otherwise Virtuosa will remain an extremely divisive character for the community. And I don't want her to be. I want her to be a character that fits in line with everyone else and is just as viable, just as fun, and just as vulnerable as everyone else. This is a game where every character should feel at least on some level of equal footing, where the way you play them matters just as much as who you pick. But, as has been pointed out by a few other content creators, there are some characters in this game, like Virtuosa or like Varingian, who just play the game for you. You pick them up, and the character pretty much wins the match for you in most situations. Now, I'm not saying they always win, but I'm saying it requires far less skill to really master these characters and get wins with them. That's my point. And I think that needs to change for Varingian and for Virtuosa. Am I saying I have all the answers? No. Am I saying my answers are necessarily the best ones? No. Am I even right in acknowledging all the right flaws with the character? No. What I am saying is these are my thoughts, these are my perspectives, and these are my suggestions on how to fix them. Take them or leave them. I don't care which, but I wanted to get these out there so that my thoughts were in the open and you guys knew my stance on the character. With that said, that's it for this video. I don't really know how to close this one, so later, guys.